it's 14-hour games. 14-inning games, and it's just ridiculous.
So with these critiques, how would you still classify it as mainstream?
I think it's still there. Doesn't mean it's not at the bottom of it.
20 years from now, though,
it's still mainstream. Definitely,
I don't even know if
10?
20 years.
10?
Like I think it is because I think it is. I think they recognize they have to do something because if they're paying attention, they know they have to do something different.
Right.
The problem is they recognize it a little too late, and I'm just not sure if it's too late. But it also is becoming more popular around the world. The World Baseball Classic, and you have we have an influx of international players now.
That feels a little desperate.
Yeah, it does, and I'm glad you guys mentioned the international field because the next question I want to ask you guys, who is the international icon or the Michael Jordan of the sport of baseball? So when we looked into this and we discussed this, a lot of us had one person, which I thought was interesting, but one of us did not, and I can't even argue with that person. But I'd like to know more because
I'm guessing it's me.
It is you, sir. It is Kenyon. Who was your Michael Jordan?
Looking at you. We was all looking at you.
Babe Ruth. Yeah, I had Babe Ruth. So I guess everyone else had Willie Mays.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth was the first superstar of baseball. Like, he was the first of all, baseball is old as fuck, but he was the first player where you not only was interested in what he did when he was performing, but his lifestyle stood out, and it carried he
how drunk he was.
He represented. Well, that's it. In fact, in the same way that Michael Jordan, I would say the '90s specifically would be the era where Michael Jordan was a representative of the culture. Babe Ruth was representative of the Roaring '20s, and that's to say nothing of what he produced on the field. He was transcendent. Baseball Almanac. They did a ranking of all baseball players based off of sabermetrics, which is fairly new. That's only been in the game within the last 15, 20 years. Babe Ruth was the number one player based off of sabermetrics. So his productivity was transcendent. And then he was dominant. He dominated baseball. He started off as a pitcher and was a great pitcher, and then he transitioned pitcher, and then transitioned to be one of the greatest hitters in baseball.
Right.
And so when you talk about
That's because all the other good pitchers were on his team. He faced raggedy pitchers his whole career
in the Negro leagues.
Well, I mean, that's fine, but production is still production. And when you talk about Michael Jordan, it's not only what he was able to do on the court that made him the icon,
because he played against great competition.
Right.
The best quote I saw was, if Barry Bonds can't be allowed in the Hall of Fame because of performance-enhancing drugs, then Babe Ruth should not be allowed in the Hall of Fame because of performance-enhancing racism. End quote.
That's funny.
I think that's a very good point. I mean, you have to look at the era that he played in, which is the baseball's golden era. So he gets a lot of the attention for that, and rightfully so. I mean, he could have gone in as one of the greatest pitchers ever.
Exactly.
But he, is one of the greatest hitters ever. But because one of the reasons why I picked Willie is because I think he was a better all-around baseball player.
Right.
And he played in a different era. So I'm assuming that you guys had the similar idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Not only was he one of the best hitters in the history of baseball, he also was the best defensive center fielder and one of the best defensive players of all time.
If I'm not mistaken, he is the only player in MLB history who's a part of the 2020 club, the 2020-20 club, the 2020-20 club, and the 30-30 club. Like, he's just set records.